Hey up, welcome to the Not Alone podcast. I'm Maddi.
And I'm Orla.
We are the co-founders of NottAlone. We're both also educational psychologists and we're both parents. We are so thrilled that you've clicked onto this podcast to join us as we delve into all things mental health and wellbeing.
Let's face it, we all encounter challenges and tough times in our lives. So we want to talk about these experiences in the hope it helps others and reminds you it's okay to not be okay. No matter what you're going through, you are not alone.
We will be having real conversations about mental health. Some topics will be challenging and maybe upsetting, so please do listen with care.
Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about how to find your thing, the thing you care about, the thing that makes you really enjoy yourself. We're focusing today on music and the creative arts and physical activity.
We've got a very special guest on, Simon, who's going to be talking to us about examples from his professional and his personal life.
We hope you enjoy the conversation.
Welcome, everybody. We've got a special guest here with us today. He's wincing at the word special. Simon, you are so special.
Thanks.
Tell everybody your full name.
My name is Simon Charles William Green.
Simon Charles William Green, everybody.
Junior.
Delighted to make your acquaintance.
Thank you very much.
Also known as Si.
That's also known as Si. Thank you. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Welcome, Si. And thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate you coming on. So this episode is going to focus on the link between physical and mental health. Yeah. We are hopefully going to talk a little bit about what you do with young people and how we can use physical activity and some of the creative activities that you use to support young people and their mental health.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and Freedom Foundation, who you are, what you're all about?
Yeah, sure. So I work as the head of operations at Freedom Foundation. It's been going for about 7-8 years now. And we work with young people around their mental health and well-being, but using like the creative arts such as singing and songwriting, dancing, spoken word, poetry, and just giving them another outlet and a way to express themselves other than they would in a mainstream classroom. We've got obviously different various programs to work with different cohorts of young people, because obviously the challenges is always evolving, so we have to adapt. But we don't just work in schools, we work in the community as well. And just my day-to-day role is just liaising with schools and having that constant communication, because we found that's been one of the biggest challenges, having the schools on board and keeping that communication and that whole kind of, not round robin, I don't know what the word is, but having that circle of we work with the children, they work with us, we work with the school, and we're all on the same page.
Build those links.
Absolutely.
How did you get into it?
So, my background isn't in education. My background is I was a professional actor, singer, dancer.
I never knew that. No, I kind of did.
Yeah.
I actually kind of did. We've had this conversation.
So I did. I worked in the West End for 18 years. I did 12 West End shows.
Wow.
I performed in Berlin. I got to perform all over the world. That was my background.
Yeah,
and then I just did, about 7 years ago, I was like, I'm done. It was just conveyor belt, and I was like, I'm done with the London life. It's a lot down there. And then I always said when I left Nottingham, I'd never come back. And
you did. Here we are.
I did. Yeah. The older I got, I wanted to be closer to my family.
I said that too. I was in London, as you know, and there's a pull to your people.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then I just came back, and it's like I started all over again. I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew when I was doing musical theatre, I used to do workshops up and down the country at different dance schools or in schools, and I'm passing on that knowledge. And I knew that I liked doing that. So when I came back, I was like, right, I'll keep doing that. And I had people interested because I was currently coming out of a West End show. So teachers were like, oh, we'll get this guy in and like work with the kids. And then that kind of like fell off. And then my mate who, he's got like a teacher placement, he was like, oh, if you like working with kids, why don't you go and work with kids in the school? So I did. I was with a TA, and they gave me the bad bunch. So they call it like the bottom set, or the naughty, badly behaved children. And I loved it. And I didn't have teacher etiquette in the slightest. And I feel like that helped me, because I was just talking to them as in their mates. And then, there obviously has to be a dynamic of teacher and student, but just asking them, how you doing? How's your day? What you been up to? Or whereabouts are you from? And asking the normal questions. And I like a bit of banter. So I remember my first day teaching, and I just had work to give to the kids. And I said, look, just get the work done. They were talking and they were saying something. I said, what have you got to say? I went, if you want to say something, say it at the end of the class, but make sure you get your work done. We'll have 5 minutes. So they were like, oh, brilliant. So they did the work. So I said, do you want to tell me what you were saying? Oh, but no, sir, we'll get in trouble. I was like, no, you won't. You can say it's fine. Well, we're just wondering, like, why are you so bold? And I literally, I went hot. I literally was like, and all the class went, oh. And mine, I'm immature. I am immature. I'm far from being mature. And my natural thing is to fire back with banter. So I'm not to say this. So the kid said, oh, why are you so bold? And I said, and instantly I was like, that's funny that I went, why are your teeth so yellow? To this kid. And he literally was like, oh, you can't say that. But it was like, look, you give it, you got to take it. And just from then, it would just worked. I didn't have any qualifications as a teacher, but I just knew how to get children engaged.
How to connect with them.
Yeah, how to and build. I think I'd say I'm quite good at building relationships quickly. In a classroom, and then the school said, we'd like to put you through your teacher qualification, which was amazing. And then I became a teacher of English.
Wow.
Just so different from my background, but I loved English at school, so I was kind of learning on the job. And then COVID happened, all of that, and I was like, I need to step away and do something different. And then my sister was like, why don't you come and work at Freedom Foundation? And I was like, so you'll be my boss? And she was like, yeah.
Tell me about some of the young people that are referred into some of your programs. So like, what is it that you would say is something about those young people that are really benefiting from what you do? Like why those young, why those young people? What is it that you think that?
So depending on, when we first engage with the school, we just send them like a catalogue of programs that we've got that would work better with different cohorts for different needs. Mainly it's all around mental health, but more around some of the programs are more hard to, like targeting children that are at risk of exclusion.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if I can talk about the program, but it's a program called Drill. So that's about demonstrate resilience, inspiring lives. We created that because the hook was drill music was popular with kids, and the kids that we were working with, they were into that music. It was like, okay, well, how can we jump on this?
Yeah.
Like flip it and drill had a lot of bad like connotations of like, gang culture and violence. So we created a program which was based on 12 weeks. We'd like to create a program that's a year, because we're not naive enough to think that we can build relationships up in 12 weeks. And because on our training plan, we go, right, in the first 2 weeks, you're going to build those relationships up and that trust, and then you can do this. It doesn't work like that. It takes minimum 12 weeks to build up that trust, but we have to do what we can do with the time that we've got with them. But yeah, we have young people that are at risk of exclusion or lack motivation.
Okay.
So we have our motivational mornings programs, which is all of our programs are around music.
Yeah.
That's
your basic thing.
That's our basic music and singing and songwriting. More rapping now. I feel that's become more popular in terms of, especially for working with kids at risk of exclusion. You can't, assume that the kids are not going to like to sing, but that's the sort of what we found. Like we say to some year 10 boys that are at risk of exclusion, and we're working with them, right, we'd like you to sing a song. They're like, sorry, like it's not their thing, but the common thing is rapping or writing poetry.
So what is it about that then? What is it about the music or that form of expression that is changing in terms of a child's mental health? So what is it about it what's the mechanism for change, do you think?
With music as well, we try and introduce them to different genres of music and that they wouldn't necessarily listen to. And it's a bit of a challenge at first, because they might be listening to classical music, or they might be listening to death metal or I don't know, Motown or...
Some of the best music production is done with classical music and old samples though, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you talk to them about the music history of stuff, and then they're like, okay, and how that music can affect their emotions and regulate, how we use that to regulate the emotions or how to motivate you. Like in the morning, what do you do? What music do you listen to? Do you listen to the radio? What do you listen to on your phone? why do you listen to that? Because it makes you feel a certain type of way, or why don't you like that music? But I feel like we try to push that, no matter what's going on in your life, you listen to a song or a certain piece of music, it can have the reverse effect of how you're feeling. Or if you're feeling sad, when you're feeling sad, what do you listen to? An upbeat song? I don't. If I'm feeling sad about something, I listen to a slow song. Why is that? It's because you want to wallow in that. You want to go. They can understand how that artist can understand how I'm feeling. I can relate to that. So you're having a conversation without having a conversation. That's what we're trying to push.
It's using the music to like process the emotions, isn't it? It's not necessarily to try and make you feel a different way. It's to help you understand and process what's going on for you in the moment.
Yeah. I tell you, there's something which kind of, when it materialized while we created that side of the program, it was based on, I had a conversation as well with my sister about why do you wallow in certain things, about sad songs. And it's quite funny actually, but it's from when I was at primary school, and we used to have like dances at primary school, like discos. And I remember there was a girl in the year above me, and I was like besotted with her. Like I was like, well, I'm going to dance with her at the disco, and she didn't. She danced with my friend.
Oh
no! And I sat
with
in
your
the corner
friend
in the PE hall.
We
just done a dance competition. I won a rave dummy. I won a rave dummy, so I was happy. And I was sat in the corner, and I was mortified, gutted. I went home, went in the living room.
What song did you put on? That's what I want to know.
Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You.
Oh, you heard it here.
But afterwards, I felt better. I kept pressing rewind because it was cassette tape. Yeah. I kept rewind, and I just kept listening, and then I was like, fine. And I said to the sister, I was like, it's funny that, but you do those things. That's what I will always remember. It's weird. It's memories that you. Also,
how old were you? Do you reckon then? I mean, you must
7, 8.
Yeah,
7 or 8.
And like, imagine even at that age.
Yeah.
So before, like, developmentally, you probably even have that much emotional intelligence to even know or understand the link between what you're doing there and why you're doing it. But you did, because it was innate. Like, I need to wallow here.
We've talked a bit about helping children to understand feelings by talking to them. But that is such a good example that if you either find it really hard to talk about feelings or you haven't got very good speech and language skills, there's an option there for you to process and talk through the feeling, and not just try and change the feeling, but to actually just lean into it and let it flow and figure out what it is. And music gives kids that option.
So that's as well, that's part linked to the dance and movement section. It's sometimes young people won't know how to express, like you said, verbally, like how they're feeling. They know how they feel, but they don't know how to express it, which then can become frustration, and then they can act out. So if they're feeling, sometimes they're feeling at the start of a session, they're feeling in a certain type of way. You can be like, okay, what type of music do you like listen to? And it could be, choose a song that represents how you're feeling, and it could be like really harsh. And it's like, okay, then move around, and you'll see like erratic movement. It's movement, it's dance, but it's movement expression of how they're feeling. And then some days they'll come in and they'll just be like sat and be chilling, or just like swaying side to side because they're feeling calm. But that's the effect it can have. And when,
I'm interested. You've worked with so many kids who, on the face of it, if we see them in schools or their parents or carers see them, they're not saying very much about how they're feeling. But I think you're saying you get to know them over time. So when you've understood a bit more about children who aren't motivated or they're not engaged, what do you know from those kids about what they're struggling with, what mental health issues they have? What do they say? How do they describe what's going on for them?
It can vary. I mean, there's been a lot of themes about things that are happening outside of school, at home. But a massive common theme is in school of not feeling heard, not feeling engaged, and not feeling that the things that they're being taught are relevant to them, which could spark another conversation about the whole education system, but that's for another thing. But they just find that there's nothing for them to get their teeth into, and they're bored.
Yeah.
They're bored.
It sounds to me like what you're describing is, I guess, a lack of connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're giving them something to connect with, because you've talked quite a lot about that, about the idea of human connection, but then also connection with something that they're good at as well. Like, and when you're good at something, you are more likely to feel like you want to do it because it's linked to the idea of motivation, isn't it?
Yeah.
This sense of competence. Same as having people that you connect with as well. It's like you find in your tribe, you find in, your thing in life kind of thing. And I think what I'm hearing is that a lot of children, young people that come to kind of end up kind of on your programs are children that don't feel that connection as part of school, potentially, or maybe even as part of their family.
Yeah,
as well.
I'd say so. They just, I said that whole. We say we've got a, it's safe, but it's not secret. In our, it's a safe space for them to vocalize how they feel, but they're aware that if there is something that flagged, that we have to obviously go through the safeguarding procedures. We have to report that, etc., etc. But it's not meant to be if we're working in a school, we're in a school, but it's not a classroom setting, because like we speak to the teachers and they're like, okay, so what do you want? Do you want a classroom? Do you want some desks? And I'm like, not really, just somewhere they can sit and chill and we can just do what we do. As long as we've got a projector screen that we can do work a visual aid from, and it's away from other classrooms, because we do use music. We just want them to come in. When they come into the sessions, we've got music playing. Like hey, we don't want it to feel formalized in the slightest. I want it to be they're in school, but you're in a different space now.
And that must be quite hard for them I imagine.
Yeah.
Quite hard for you to get to them to go from this is school and this is the rules and this is who I am there, and then this perhaps is who I am when I'm with you, and it's almost like, I don't know, some about authenticity of who they are. And
that's why we try and do when we do our program, we try to do it first thing in the morning before they go, so they've not gone through their routine of their school day. Then it's like right here. But what we also found is we've had to adapt our programs for the end of the sessions to kind of regulate them before they go back into school. So to calm them down, we have to calm them down, because not that they're hyper in our sessions, but they're doing things that they really, really like. And it's like creative stuff and, the freedom of speech and how they feel about certain things that they can't really talk about in school to a teacher, because they might probably going to be told off.
It's interesting. We talked last week we had Charlotte Lewis Gordon on, who came to talk a bit about school attendance, and we're speaking specifically about children who are finding it hard to attend school because of anxiety. So it's interesting because we talked a lot about that morning time, didn't we? The transition into school, and how actually that for a child who's quite anxious is probably the hardest bit, is like getting in the morning. Yeah. So do you think that what you do has an impact being first thing in the morning, because it kind of gives that almost soft start, different kind of space for them to transition into the school environment?
I think so. And what we've been kind of like, we've had our shackles on with when we can't do, we always wanted to do, which is at the start of the day, specifically with our motivational morning programs, it's kind of like, right, let's motivate you ready for the start of the week on a Monday. We talk about the first 15 minutes is, how was your weekend? What's gone on? Some positives. What else? Let's talk about the negatives as well. What's gone on from your house to the school? So to get it off their chest, so they're not, because I feel with some of the kids we work with, it's like they have all this stuff going on. It could start the day. When they get in school, they can't talk about it. So they've got all of those things going on in their head, but they're sat in a confined space in a classroom. Listen, learn, write. Listen, learn, write, and they can't function correctly. So we try to get out of them in the morning. So
that makes me feel really sad.
Yeah,
like it does make me feel really sad to think that children don't have that, like, or feel like they have that opportunity to express themselves and I think as you know by now, I talk about her a lot, but I have a daughter who's 13, and she's has a happy life. I think she has a happy life, but she still finds it really, really hard to go into school. And I do spend time wondering why, like, what is it? And I think there's something about that, isn't it? About just not quite being able to be yourself and be who you are and tell your story to people and having to conform. And the pressure of that is real, isn't it? It really is.
I think if you think about it in schools, everyone learns the same subjects. Everyone is judged at the same level, or not the same level. Just if you don't get this grade, etc., that's where you start in life. And not everyone is the same. So how can everyone, all of those subjects be correct for every single individual. It doesn't make sense. And it's part of the problem why young people get frustrated in school as well, I feel, is teachers not having time. Teachers don't have time because teachers are under a lot of pressure to Ofsted are coming in, right, we're going to make sure that my class has got all their marks and all of that is, et cetera, is in place. And a lot of the time when things escalate in the classroom or they escalate around the school, they wouldn't escalate if the teacher had 5 minutes to go, are you all right? What's wrong? But what teachers do is, I'm not going to let this one child disrupt these 29 students who need to learn as well. So I'm just going to pass that on. Then they get passed on. Then they get passed on again. Then they get put in a room. Think about what you've done. Well, it's not really helping because I don't want anyone to talk to. So it's time. And what I'm finding in school, going into certain schools, they've not got enough support staff in there because budgets or budget cuts. And then, there's a whole thing around certain schools that have a lot of high pupil premium, but there's a lack of support for the children. So where's that money going? All of those things. There's so many issues.
I guess it's high need, not enough, isn't it? In a lot of cases.
Massively.
So you, in your programs, you've got a set program, you've got kids, you've got time, you've got space. So can I ask you maybe a hard question, but if you're giving advice to a class teacher or a parent who's trying to take some of what you're saying and think, how can I do this in my day-to-day with all those constraints? Do you have any advice or tips for you're faced with a young person and you can see they need to find their thing? They need to find their creative outlet, or they need to find their physical activity. Where do they start? How do they start the conversation? How do they start trying to find that thing with them?
I think it's different for a parent and their teacher. I think there's different angles you can go into. I'm no expert on this, but to find their thing, I think it's a case of teachers just have a conversation, break down that barrier of, I'm your teacher, you're my pupil. It's about us having a conversation and just be like, just talk, have a conversation and just, what do you do outside school, or, what are your hobbies, or why haven't you got any hobbies, or, oh, you're really good at that, or something so small that they're really good or they're good at that they don't realize. Champion it so that it gives them confidence. They go, oh, well, I'm good at that. Maybe I'm good at that, and it's about their confidence. You got to build that up. And then being a parent, I'm only a few years being a parent, but I know anything that he does, I'm like, go on, son. Go on. Yeah, you're wicked. You're amazing. You're the best.
Confidence again.
Confidence. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to bring it. You got to bring it out. I think a lot of things to do with finding their niche is based around confidence. If you lack that, even as an adult, if you got something, I think it's hard for adults now because you get to a certain age, then you're like, I like that, but I can't bother. I'm not going to do that because I won't be able to do it.
Yeah,
well, yeah, you can.
Definitely, yeah. Or I'm not fit enough to do that anymore.
Yeah, you surprise yourself because when you throw yourself out the comfort zone,
yes,
you've got to. But kids can't do that. They need the adult to guide them and push them in that way.
Yeah.
And teachers don't have the time, and parents kind of feel like, I don't know.
Well, I guess the thing is as well, let's be for real, there's a lot of kids out there they don't have parents who can do that for them. Do you know, a lot of parents are struggling with their own mental health. Yeah. Or, they might live in a family where there's a lot of children, for example, and they just don't get that individual time with a person to build them up, to give them the confidence that they need and to, raise their esteem in that kind of way. And that's where teachers come in, I think, isn't it? They're the people that are seeing children every day. And when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking to myself, again, it's about connection, isn't it? It's about, if you're an adult and you're working with children in a teacher role, I think, maybe back in the 80s or 90s, perhaps when we were at school, that teacher role looked very different. I think now you are in more of a social care type role as a teacher. Yeah. And it is important to get to know children, their experiences, their narratives, because if you can be that person to somebody, that could literally change their life. It's like you say, if you think back to your own experience at school, I bet you could name a teacher. Yeah, you both nodded. You both nodded. Who changed things for you because they told you were good at something, and that makes a difference. I was actually I'm not very good at art, right, at all. My art teacher, for whatever reason, I had a really good relationship with him, and he told me I was really good, and I got loads better at it. As a result, I ended up passing my GCSE. And if you'd have asked me in year 6 or 7, would I have done that now because I was rubbish at drawing. But because somebody believed in me, I got better at it, which is amazing.
And it gives you confidence, not just for the thing you're talking about. So let's say you tell the child they're good at football and then maybe they try football, but it gives them resilience to try, the confidence to try. And they're more likely then to try something else, aren't they? And it makes me think what you're saying, that you start with where the kids are interested. So they might start talking about drill or rap, and then you might, once you're there and they're confident, you might say, well, let's have a listen to this classical. And so once you're in and you have the relationship and you've built the confidence, they feel brave enough to try something new, or to think, oh, I'd never heard of that before, but let's have a go.
I mean, something that's quite funny which cropped up, not about, I think it was last year in school, and we'd never come across it before. You know, we always say about, who listens to music? And the whole cohort said, said they don't listen to music. And I went, are you sure about that? I went, how many of you game? And then they were like, hands up. And I went, do you listen to it on mute? And they were like, no. And I'm like, so what can you hear in the background? This song. And then we'll play a song from like say Fortnite, and you'll play a track off there, and they're like, oh yeah,
I heard that. And
so you listen to music,
and then they know the dance as well.
Yeah, so then you connect with them, find something common with them that they, you know what I mean. Then you can. It's kind of like, I don't want to say cloak and dagger, but you're getting somewhere without them knowing.
Yes.
And just getting them on board.
Yeah, and we talked a bit about that in previous episodes, didn't we? About trying to connect and engage with young people, but not necessarily saying, sit down, look at me, face me, tell me what's going on, but do a shared activity that you love. And it's a way into the conversation. Yeah, absolutely. Sort of by stealth.
Yeah.
I think stuff like songwriting as well, it's almost, there's a deeper level to that then, isn't there, as well? Because I don't know if I've ever told you this, my undergraduate degree is in art therapy.
Yes.
Did you know that? Yeah. And that's very much about it's art as therapy, but it's also about narrative. So it's how you use a therapeutic discipline to tell your story. And of course, there's a lot of people that can't, for lots of different reasons, talk about their story, but they can do that through different creative mediums, through dance, through music, through songwriting, through art, through whatever it is. And it's very much about, so it's about the process of art making, but it's also about how you process. It's exactly what you were saying earlier, I guess, how you process your life experiences through an art form. And I'm really interested in the idea of physical health as well. So I want to just cover a little bit about physical and mental health and like what the connection is for young people, but then also just for in general.
Because I'm interested what you said about when kids are listening to music, the movement. There's something about the movement as well. So yes, the music and the sound, but the movement and the physical. Why do you think that helps kids' mental health? Okay,
so if you think back, I did this as a kid. So every household has different issues, and I think back to my childhood, and then I also think back. I used to watch a lot of stand-up comedy, and I used to love watching Eddie Murphy and his stand-up, and Richard Pryor, and they spoke about being a kid and you'd be told off by your parents. And then you go to your safe space, which is your bedroom, and you let it all out. And it's not just, I used to say some horrendous things about my parents into my pillow, or shout.
Do you know what? This is really like my daughter does this, and I can hear her in a room, and she does say some horrible things. But I did that as well. I did. But that's actually really normal, isn't it?
Do you remember the physical side of it? Were you just stood there going? Oh, you annoy me, or I hate you.
You're trying to hit something,
but you're just physically moving around. I just throw myself like temper tantrums. Yeah. Kids can't verbalize that, but they can do it physically. That's an expression of their emotion. We push that to go. We don't want kids to have a temper tantrum in the session.
Yeah, but we don't want to see that, do
when
we?
You do
That's what it is.
Yes.
Kids have a temper tantrum and
they feel better
because they let it all out.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Physical expression. It's physical dance. Like I go into an extreme limit of. So like I was a professional dancer, so. If I was doing, say I was when I was doing a show, I'd obviously got life going on outside. Stress, it could be relationship problems, could be financial problems, or everything. But when you went and performed, you forgot everything. That was my safe space. That was like I would go 110% more. I want to be physically exhausted, and I'd been having all that on my mind. And afterwards, I'd be like, that's my That's my release.
That's your place.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm really interested in. I think I think we kind of like try and push that under the carpet with children, because it's quite scary for us to see children be angry. Do you know?
Yeah.
And even, in fact, not just children, adults too. It's scary for us to see somebody be physically expressive sometimes. And I think where as an adult, you learn to use the gym, to use a run, and that's kind of it, because it is a way of offloading, isn't it? And it's a way of increasing things like, euphoric hormones and stuff that makes us feel good about ourselves. So we naturally want to do it more. But it is also, if you feel stressed, as an adult, you can go and have a run, or you can, but I don't think young people are connected with their own physicality in that way necessarily.
They need an outlet.
But then that, do you not then that links to the community then of going, all the things that have been cut back.
Exactly.
All of like, boys club, I go to a boys club, or we go to the youth hostel. That was that's where we go, and parents knew where we were, or even the local park. It was a small park, but it was done up, and it was our place, and that's where we used to. There's not those things are being cut back. So you're saying about that fulfillment of having that physical side of things. If they might not realize they're laying out the system, but being parts of certain teams or being parts of a club, you're doing it without even realizing there's an outlet. Now there's not that. So where are kids? They're inside, or
they're gaming,
they're doing outside, doing antisocial things to fulfill that need.
Yes.
And it's wrong, the wrong direction.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you were saying as well about it. It's not just the dancing and the moving, it's the being challenged. You were saying like you want to go to the edge of your physicality. You want to be like really exhausted. And there's a psychologist called Csikszentmihalyi talks about this idea of flow and peak experience. So it's when the level of challenge from the activity just very, very closely matches your level of skill. And it's like a really fine balance of it's at the top of your skill and it's really high challenge, and then there's this sweet spot when you've got both of those going on. And if you're really skilled but the activity is really easy, it doesn't work. And if you don't have the skill and the activity is too hard, it doesn't work. And when you get that perfect match, it's supposed to be this really meaningful psychological state called flow.
I don't think I've ever been in flow. Just saying. Nah. I'm not like, I love a run, but that's
but
about
it's not always physical activity. I bet though
Maddi is not in flow.
I bet though you've had a day where you've been at work or you've been working with kids and you've really, really nailed it, and you've made a difference.
At work maybe, but not physically.
Exactly. But this idea of flow can come in any activity.
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So it's not just about like being really good at football or
yeah,
something.
Exactly. And I guess...
Okay, maybe I have been in flow.
Yeah. But people talk about flow as in you lose all track of time, and you sometimes don't think about anything else.
For sure.
And that's kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I guess that's an important point though, Maddi, isn't it? That we're talking about sort of being creative and being physical. But actually, if that's not your thing, people can get it from other activities, maybe from work, maybe from, being really, some people get it from being really social, that when they're like really connecting with people and they're really chatty, from art.
I think that's probably me more.
Yeah.
I guess what it is though, what you're saying is that everyone's good at something, aren't they? Everyone's good at something. And I think even when you've had the most challenging of experiences in life, or have experienced trauma or whatever it is, I think if you can find your thing, it can really save you.
But that's your starting point.
Yeah.
That's your starting point to what your thing is that you start at might not be where you end up. And
that's a good point.
It's a trigger point. It's your trigger point of going, okay, so it gives me that belief, or that leads me to that. Oh, but I'd like to try that. Oh, actually, do you know what? I can link that with that, or I'm better at that, or I'm going to go that way. It's just, you've got to have a starting point. You've got to have a starting point and find it, because everyone's got it. He said, you just got to find it.
Yeah. And it's about as adults as helping children to find that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think if you're a person working with young people, or even as a parent, if you can give a child that one thing, it's so special and important.
Absolutely. So Sai, what is your favourite thing about your job, and what's your biggest success story?
Favorite thing about my job, the freedom of it. No pun intended. No, I feel I've always liked. It's weird actually, because I've made so many mistakes throughout my life, some big, some small, but I always feel like I've got quite a bit of wisdom to pass on, and I like to help, especially young people. But I feel like that's to do with my past of not having, my dad wasn't really in my life growing up, and that's had a massive impact on me, but I never let it affect me to the point of what I'm going to be down about. I'm just not going to be like that. And I've met, now that I'm a dad, it's that whole thing of even more so now to pass on certain knowledge or guidance, and working with, I struggled in school from when my dad left my life. And when I was in primary school, I used to love school. I'd go to school if my arm was hanging off. Like, I loved it. And then when all that happened with my mum and my dad, I just changed. I was so badly behaved, and I was pushing back and acting up. And I got kicked out of a couple of secondary schools because my behaviour was horrendous. And I felt like everyone just thought I was a bad kid, but no one asked me what was going on when I was in school. And now what I get to do is get underneath everything. I'm not necessarily at the forefront in the sessions, delivering the sessions, but when I go to visit and I see at the beginning of this, there's 3 visits that I do on every program: the beginning, the middle, and in the end. And to see the journey that they go on and ask it, and then I'll pull them out and ask them questions, and I get to talk to young people and ask them what's really going on, and how do they feel that we've helped them, or how could we better help them? Because essentially, what our program started off as, they're nowhere near what they are now. It's been shaped and evolved by the young people we've worked with. We've amended our program going, that doesn't work. It might not be that, and then we'll do at the end of the year's evaluation and go, let's rejig that. And it's ever evolving because, like you say, young people, the need is changing always.
Yeah, I guess you've used your own life experiences, though, is what you're saying, and you've gone all the way over there to like dancing and performing, and you've come full circle and used your life experiences to really meaningfully help the lives of children, based on your own experience of not feeling connected and listened to in your own kind of environment growing up. And I think, there's a lot of people out there, I think, that go into working with children and young people for different reasons, aren't there? But I guess, again, that's just really, it's special because what you're giving them is something that you didn't have.
Yeah. I will say as well, I feel like because it was a different era, being a boy, it was kind of like, you don't really express your emotions, and because especially around other lads in school, it was like what I wanted to do. I know, like, it doesn't matter about crying now. Like, what I wanted to do was just be like, talk to my mate, go, do you know what's going on back home? Like, and just let it all out. But I couldn't, because it would seem weak. Okay. And lads then would just jump on it. And when I think that's why my mum gave me something to do outside, because I think when I socialised with kids doing football, I still did a bit of football, but I had so much going on, it was something different. She just took me away and put me into dance. And I was a live wire. And
it was your thing, though. It saved you.
Yeah.
It saved you. And you've used that now, your thing, to turn your life into something really meaningful.
Yeah.
So that was your mum, I guess, that believed in you and sent you down that kind of path.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Do you think it's different now? Or do you think young men have similar experiences that they don't feel like they can talk to their friends?
I feel like it still happens now, but I feel like it's kind of more acceptable, like, because it's been made more aware of the fact that, look, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to for boys to cry. It's okay. It's more acceptable now, but there still is that whole stigma around it of going, stiff upper lip and, just man up.
Yeah.
What do you mean man up?
Yeah. The suicide is now the biggest killer of men from age 18 to 30. Is the big, like, more than heart disease, more than alcoholism, more men kill themselves than any other way of dying. And that's shocking to me. We are going to cover an episode on men's mental health, so it'd be great to have you back to join that conversation as well.
Yeah. I will say I do, yeah. When I said I made me making bad choices and stuff, like I did go through a proper dark time when I was in London, and that whole
It's a rat race, isn't it, in London as well?
Yeah, and I ain't got my family down there, and I lost contact with a lot of my friends when I left school because I left Nottingham when I was 16 and went to London to train, and then I started working straight away. So it's kind of like I was still so young, 16-year-old. So young. I'd gone away.
Yeah.
And I just was involved in wrong circles of socializing, and you know, it got to a point and I'm like sat in a flat in Euston, London. I had a flat there, and I remember thinking like, I'm bored, like I'm anyone to talk to, and I'm going for a lot of things, and I had no one to. I was like, who can I ring up just to have a conversation? I was like, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. And I never got to that point, but I remember I opened up to when I moved back, I opened up to mum, told mum about it, and she broke down. She had no idea. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to put that on you. Yeah. That's the other thing. Things that you've got going on, you don't want to put that burden on someone else because it's a lot. And that's, you don't realize that someone can be that your outlet. And I had some horrendous thoughts, and that now I'll be like, how was I even thinking that? But it's so easy to go down that road and think, what's the point? What's the point?
What helped you? How did you come back from that place?
I ended up dealing with. I wrote everything down that was going on. There was issues for me that I was just shoving under the carpet,
right? And
I had dealt with them one by one. And slowly, the hardest ones were the first like 3 or 4. And then after that, it was like, well, I've done them. I can do this. I can do that. I can do that. Right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And then my final piece in the puzzle was when I met my fiance randomly, and I came back, and she's the person I've ever been able to speak about everything openly without feeling judged. And she was like, Mike, she's your home. Don't worry. I told her, I'm not going to go what it was, but I told her something that was the big thing that needs to be sorted out. And I was in a state. And I remember we were sat down in her house and we were having dinner. And I was always thinking, when am I going to ever tell her this? When am I going to tell her this? And I just went, I need to tell you something. And she went, what? And I didn't say, oh, please don't feel like this. I just said, blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking, man, what is she going to do? And she just got up, she came around and she put her arms on me and she went, don't worry. She went, I got you. Oh, don't worry. And I was like, from then, I was like, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. You found your person.
Yeah.
It's the most important.
She's my person.
As an adult,
she knows the hell out of me. Yeah. She's my person.
Yeah. Do you know what it is though? I think as you get older, I was talking to my friends about this, and there's a couple of things I want to say based on what you said. The first thing is the difference between men and women, because it's interesting that you kind of self-supported. Women talk about stuff a lot more, don't we? We just do. Like, it's a lot easier for a woman to phone up a girl and say, I'm feeling like this, or, do you know, and I think that's got to change. We have to change that in the world, just in general, because it saves so much. I always say, you know, if women were in the country, we'd be in a lot better place because the egos aren't there. Do you know, just in terms of being able to be open, honest, emotional, all those things that are really positive and that are seen as weak. That's something that's got to change. The other thing was, I was speaking to my friends about this the other day. When you get to a certain age in life, right, you become everything to everyone because you get to an age where your parents are old, so you have to help and support them, and then you've got young kids, so you have to help and support them, and you are just doing everything for everyone because you're also at a point of work where you're like responsible, you know, depending on what job you have, I guess, but a lot of us are very responsible, and I think unless you've got your person next to you through that, I think it must be so hard. I don't know what I would do without my home person. He's just riding alongside me in life and, you know, the ups and downs.
You know, I think you're right in what you said about, you know, women, they want you to talk and, you know, ring up your best friend now, this, and offload. And I feel quite lucky in the sense I've got like, you know, I can name on one hand, like my boys who I can talk to, but there's still a fine line of going, I'm going to talk about this, but not too much. Because
and then
I don't
did you watch the game on Saturday?
What game?
And then watch. That's what they do, don't they?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This isn't it. Oh, yeah. Did you see the game on Saturday? Did you see the goal? Did you see? You know, it, like that's what I find when I listen in to men's conversations. You'll talk and you go to a certain point, and whereas like with women, I have girlfriends that I will be on the phone with them like literally within 5 minutes. It's deep. Like really deep, you know, because we'll go there. Whereas I think with men, you'll go da 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 da. This is getting too deep. I'm going to talk about football.
But you know, we always still say in our circle, we're like, you know, I'm always here. Like I'm here. Listen, if you need to talk, just call me anytime. But then when the conversation happens, we'll talk. And then it's like, okay, what we do next week? What do you want to do? And
there's a bit of a back off. Like,
there is.
My husband's really good, like with his friends. Same way that you probably are. But I notice how much he gets scared when the conversation gets a little bit deep.
Yeah.
Do you know what? There's other element to it as well. It's not just male and female, or men and women. It's about there's different cultural backgrounds as well.
Definitely.
But you know, predominantly my friends are from Jamaican or African, and it's like that household about
like how
boys
you were brought
talking.
Up.
Yeah, it's a different. But all of my mates, we're all dads as well, which is good. So we talk about our upbringing and how the discipline was so strict, and you know, you can't this is regimented, and you know, we openly say like that's not right how it was. So there's that mold that's trying to be broken, but there's that whole thing of I know we never used to speak to our dads about
how we're feeling.
I'm feeling sad. I'm crying in front of my dad. No chance you cry in front of your dad. No chance, because that not that they didn't love you, but it was a case of you don't want them to think any less of you of going, oh, my son's weak. That's the whole thing. So that's you're aware of it. We're aware of it, especially in my circle of friends.
And you know, when you were talking about, you know, your really personal story, some really dark places, the things that made a difference, like the things that your person said, you know, I've got you, or the things that you did, wrote things down. They sound so simple, don't they? And I think sometimes when you talk to someone who's in that dark place and you say, or you talk to someone who's trying to support someone who is, and you say, tell them you're there for them, or you suggest write things down, they sound like naive or too simple. Like that simplicity can't possibly help. But it's the relationship behind it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like your relation with yourself being like, I have the confidence I can work through these things.
Yeah.
Your relationship with her, I've got you. You know, that, you know, your conversation with your mum, because that relationship was there. And that's what brings the power to the simple things, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't need someone to fix it for you.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I think.
No one can fix it for you. You've got to do that, but you've got to
people to walk alongside you.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes as a kid, you have to hold a hand before you walk. You need that as an adult. You need someone to hold your hand. Not physically, but mentally. They need to hold your hand and walk you down the path that you need to go down. So, yeah.
Food for thought.
So we have our final question that we ask everyone, and it's a perfect segue into it, really. What do you do in your life to remind yourself that you're not alone?
I'd say I'm more I stay connected more to my family, my friends. I'd say I used to be quite, I don't know what the word is, not an introvert. I was not an introvert, but I used to be very, very, I'm happy in my own company. I'm always happy in my own company, but to do more and be present. And even when I'm present with people, I'm not on my phone. I'm having conversation. I'm listening. I struggle. I used to struggle, but like, oh yeah, I'm not listening to a word you're saying, but I'm here. But just, I'd say to remind me not alone is that there are people that I can rely on, and the world is a better place with people in your life rather than not in it.
What a wonderful way to end.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's all right.
We discussed some heavy subjects today. So remember that you can find advice and links to support services on NottAlone.org.uk. You are not alone.